Baseball Hall of Fame. So if you know Mike Piazza, he's a huge metalhead.
Metal guys. Mike Piazza would like to be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he probably would. And actually, he would leave Shea Stadium back when he played for the Mets, and he'd go visit Eddie Trunk when he was at NEW. Now
Eddie Trunk's a big metal guy on the radio, for those who might not know.
And he would hang out with Eddie for 3 hours and play Metallica.
And hang out. Just chill, maybe have a beer.
Yeah, well, no, take one, I like that coffee, Actually, you can. Just the whole thing. But anyway,
Wait, we can? This could open up a whole new branch for the show.
Technically, if I sign on the board, you can technically drink it.
Nice.
Not that we're going to.
It is 10 o'clock in the morning. I mean,
what are you going to do?
It's a little early.
So anyway, Piazza's story maybe is a little better than Ken Griffey Jr.'s story, though Ken Griffey Jr. has a great story, too.
Different story. Here's the great thing about the Hall of Fame, from my standpoint, is that you have a guy in Ken Griffey Jr. who, I don't even want to say since he was born, because let's not go that crazy, but since he was drafted and since he was in high school, people were predicting Hall of Fame for him. And they said, this kid is so good. He's going to be a franchise cornerstone kind of player. He is going to be one of the all-time greats. And this was before he even played a major league game.
Right.
And then you have Mike Piazza, who was a 62nd round draft pick in, I believe it was 1988.
No.
88.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. And here was a guy who, in today's baseball, wouldn't have been drafted. There aren't 62 rounds in the draft anymore.
Right.
So he was a guy who was so far out on the fringe that the only reason he was drafted was because his dad, Vince, knew Tommy Lasorda, and Tommy just drafted him as a favor. And he put in the work, and he turned himself into not just a ball player, not just a guy who had a career, but arguably one of the top catchers of all time, if not the. I mean, I was impressed yesterday in Piazza's speech where he actually did say Johnny Bench is still the greatest catcher of all time, because people have said that Piazza might be the greatest hitting catcher of all time.
I would say that.
But Johnny Bench
was
behind the plate, in the batter's box. He did everything. Johnny Bench was a great catcher. He was a great hitter, and he was a great defensive player. Mike Piazza was a great hitter who also played catcher.
Yes.
Let's put it that way.
It would have been nicer for his career. Let's say he was a first baseman and his knees would have cracked out towards the end of his career.
That's every catcher goes through that. Though.
Yeah, I know that. But I think it was really a good induction. There was two distinct stories going on. And Ken Griffey Jr. had, here's a guy we should mention, he's Ken Griffey Jr. Ken Griffey also had a pretty darn good career. Not Hall of Fame, but he had some good seasons.
He played, 20-some seasons. I mean, he was still playing at 40.
Right.
And that was why they were able to be teammates, was because Ken Griffey Sr. was a good enough player to last into his early 40s, so the two of them could be. I mean, how many father and son teammates have there been?
Not many, and I think that's one of the things. So he did something that many fathers like to do: play ball with their kids.
Oh yeah.
And I think and he had his season. I mean, he had a
great season. I mean, he signed that big contract with the Yankees because he was a good player.
Right.
I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say Ken Griffey Jr. or Ken Griffey was the senior was one of the greats of all time, but he had a very good career. And he had a very long career. He took care of himself. He was a quality player. He was a guy who played on a lot of winning teams. Let's not underestimate that factor, because if you're not a good player, chances are you're not going to be on winning teams.
Right.
That's all part of the equation. So, but this was all part of Griffey's legacy, is that he grew up in this atmosphere. He grew up wrestling with his brothers on the floor in the Yankee clubhouse, and there's this infamous story about Billy Martin throwing them out of the Yankee clubhouse because he was angry that here were these kids screwing around the clubhouse and playing and having a good time, and his whole thing was, well, this is a place of business and we got to get serious and we got a game to win and we got to focus, and we can't do that with these kids rolling around on the floor.
I think it just bothers him. Billy. He might have been drunk. Who knows?
Billy was, I mean, I doubt he was drunk because it was game day and whatever, but, Billy he took the game very seriously. And Billy was not one to, have anything distract his team from the goal at hand. He ran his team like a general runs an army. That was Billy's way. That was Steinbrenner's way. That's why they clashed heads so many times.
So Piazza, he literally thanked everyone.
He did.
I mean,
there was a lot of thank yous.
There was a lot of thank yous. He broke down, 5 times? 5 times.
I'm going by Al Leiter's count on that, by the way.
Yeah.
5 times Al had it.
He thanked Reggie Smith. He turned around and thanked Lasorda.
Yep.
And you know what? I was reading about this yesterday. It was a nice thing in the Daily News. They had a nice pull-out page. Piazza might have stayed with the Dodgers if Fox hadn't bought the team.
Well, he was upset.
Fox wanted to save some money, and they said, why would we sign this guy? But if it was with the previous owner, which was who was it?
I don't even remember.
Or something. Whoever. They were long-time owners of the team. They didn't want to draft.
Oh, the O'Malleys.
The O'Malleys.
Yeah. I thought I was thinking of somebody else. Never mind.
So if they hadn't sold the team, they probably would have signed. They probably would have kept Piazza.
Yeah. The O'Malleys understood the star system and having players like Piazza and the contract that the Dodgers offered him, I don't want to say it was insulting because we're still talking about tens of millions of dollars, but at the same time, it wasn't representative of Piazza's stature in the game.
Right.
And everybody wants to get paid as whatever they can, and if you look around and you see the offer that you're getting and you see what other players are making, you certainly can make a case for, hey, I should be making a lot more than this. I mean, why would I sign this contract when there are other teams out there that would pay me more than this?
Right.
And so when that stalemate happened, that's why Piazza was dealt to the Florida Marlins. Right. And he was there, I mean, literally for weeks, a few weeks. And then the Mets made the trade with the Marlins and brought him to New York.
Now, Steve Phillips said something interesting in an interview in the Daily News. He said that, back then, the big thing that everyone thought was that there was a lot of pressure from sports talk radio to bring Piazza to the Mets. Why would he go to the Marlins? Let's bring him here. And some people, I guess, would take some credit, too, for this. Phillips said that had nothing to do with bringing him. We wanted to bring him here.
He lies.
Steve Phillips?
He lies.
Okay. If you say so. Anyway,
for him to say it had nothing to do with it is garbage, because those are your fans speaking. When you hear somebody on talk radio, those are the fans speaking. Whether it is the people who are on the air doing the show, or if it's the callers who and back then I'm sure there were dozens of callers saying we got to get Piazza here.
I remember when this happened. The first thing was, why didn't Piazza come to the Mets? That was the first thing.
Right.
Second of all, when they actually did get him, and actually for not much really.
When you think about it, when you look back, I mean, what was it, Preston Wilson and
some pitcher who.
Yeah. I mean, usually history will show you that in trades like that, it is typically the team that gives up the multiple pieces to get the star player does better. The star player is the known commodity, and the star player in most cases, because I'm just thinking Roberto Alomar is probably the exception to that rule.
Right.
But in most cases, the star player will perform, and you don't know what you can get a very highly touted prospect. You can get somebody, and we're going to talk about this later with the Yankees, but you never really know what you're getting. And obviously there have been cases in the opposite way where teams have acquired somebody for an established pitcher, like John Smoltz for Doyle Alexander comes up right away. Jeff Bagwell for Larry Christensen comes up right away. So there are obviously examples on both sides, but typically a team that gives up 3 or 4 players and to get one main guy, typically that team will do better. And the Mets certainly did with Piazza. I mean, he was a cornerstone.
I mean, he's only the second Met player to go in as a Met. Tom Seaver being the first one. Though Gil Hodges is in there, and Casey Stengel is in there too, but they're not in there for what they did as Mets.
Right. With Gil Hodges, it added to it when he won the World Series in '69, but Casey Stengel obviously made his career with the Yankees.
Right, and Gary Carter, when he went in as, they made him go in as a Montreal Expo.
Deservedly so. He had his best years there.
He did, but he won the championship with the Mets.
True.
That was much more important than the Expos. But I think they also, Major League Baseball, wanted to give a little thing.
Smooth things out with Canada after they stole their team from them.
So, but you know what? This is a great moment. Piazza thanks the Met fans. The orange and blue. And here's to me how Met fans love him. I said this last week, and I'll say it again this week. Piazza comes back as a San Diego Padre, hits one home run in Saturday, one home run on Sunday, gets a standing ovation by the Met fans, even though he just, hit home runs.
That's how much he meant to them.
So, and I wish he had retired a Met. I know why he didn't, but I wish he had.
Well, he still wanted to play, and he still thought he could play. So any athlete who still thinks he's got something left in the tank is just going to go find a place to play.
Yeah, the guy they brought in was Paul. Oh, I don't know what was his name. Paul something. I think he only
LaDuca.
No, not LaDuca.
Yeah, it was LaDuca. Paul LaDuca with the hot wife.
Yeah.
Oh, great wife.
No, he had a hot girlfriend.
Well, that was a different story.
Oh.
Had the hot wife, but he was cheating on her with girlfriend. It was a bad situation.
But he didn't really last too long with the Mets.
No. They expected him to last longer, and his career really kind of took a nosedive not long after he arrived with the Mets. He had one good season pretty much, or maybe two, and then it was a precipitous decline.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. And, Piazza still, you look back, still, that home run, the week after September 11th, still...
That is one of the great moments in Met history. It really is.
It is.
And it's not only because it helped the Mets win a baseball game, but it's because of what it meant to the city. I mean, that home run impacted so many people on so many different levels. I mean, you're talking about a city that was devastated and a country that was devastated, and that home run kind of brought, I don't want to say it brought normalcy back, because it took a lot longer than that and just more than one swing of the bat, but Mike Piazza helped New York take a big step to say, hey, things are all right.
If you think about it, it was just a home run in a game.
Right. But it had so much symbolism to it, and like I said, it returned or helped return a sense of normalcy to a city that was still reeling at that point. I mean, we're still talking. It was 10 days after 9/11, but people were still trying to figure out what's the new normal. How is my life going to be now? And for a little while, Mike Piazza gave people reason to smile, and gave New York kind of pointed New Yorkers in the right direction in terms of, all right, you know what, we just got smacked in the face with this horrific incident and this horrific evil display, but we're going to get through this, and we're going to get back to where we need to be.
Right, and I think, if you think about what he did when he first arrived, he gets the Mets into the playoffs in '99. They should have been in '98. 2000, they go to the World Series.
And lost.
Yeah, they lost. But you know what? He led the way. He comes in. He's that type of player where everything just rises. All the talent level says, okay, well, we're going to play a little better.
Because he's that kind of an impact bat, and he's that kind of player. He didn't shy away from the big moment. And when you have somebody like a Mike Piazza in your lineup, it makes your lineup that much deeper. It's more than one player. It has more of an impact because you have to watch out for
I had a Sunday ticket package with our friend Rob Tubbs, and it was always great because you had John Olerud, and then you had Piazza. Well, Piazza, Olerud. And, it was Piazza first, then Olerud.
Right.
So Olerud ended up being this really great hitter.
He was a great hitter.
For the Mets, for that time he was there. So just having Piazza in the lineup just made Olerud a better player. It's just
because Piazza was on base a lot,
right.
and Olerud got better pitches to hit.
Do you remember when in '98 we drove Dad's car across country?
Yes, I do. How could I forget that?
Remember we went to Busch Stadium?
How could I forget that?
And Timmy and I are sitting there, and
I wound up interviewing Tony La Russa on the field, and the Cardinals GM, whose name is escaping me right now for some reason.
Okay, but do you remember what happened? We were sitting in the stand,
yes.
And at that point, this was August of 1998. Piazza had only been here maybe a couple of weeks, really, 2 weeks, and he wasn't doing what Mike Piazza was expecting.
Very true.
And so Timmy and I, for those who don't know, we're telling the story for the first time, so you wouldn't. We start, they announced his name, and we start booing him. And
we did?
Yeah. And there was this woman, it was like, boo! boo! And this woman turns around and goes, what do you mean, you're booing Mike Piazza? I go, yeah. And we go, yeah, we're from New York. We expect it to.
Yeah, look at him. He said, look, it's basically, I mean,
we expect him to play better right away.
What people have to remember is when Piazza arrived in New York, he did not play well for a good little while. And the fans let him know it. And the fans let him know, hey, we have expectations for you, and you need to start hitting. And Piazza actually mentioned that in his speech yesterday, which kind of surprised me. He actually thanked the fans for booing him, which I don't think anybody's ever done in a Hall of Fame speech. But he compared it to a jockey hitting a horse with a whip. And he said, you might not like it, and it might not be nice to see, but it's effective, and it has an impact. And Piazza, I mean, the fans let him know, you're in a place now where there are expectations, and we expect to win, and we expect you to lead us there.
Yeah, this isn't the Dodgers where everyone leaves in the seventh inning. But it was, I remember that woman, she was sort of not yelling at us, but she was, and I go, hey, we expect more. And, we booed him again. He actually had 2 hits, I think.
Cardinal fans are pretty serious, too, but they're very, touchy-feely, huggy with their teams. And somebody goes, 1 for 25 or something. They go, oh, come on, you'll get him next time. No, forget that. That's not it. That stuff doesn't fly in New York.
Unless they really like the guy. Hey,
Derek Jeter got booed. Mike Piazza is not above Derek Jeter and Mickey Mantle. Sorry, Mike, but that's just fact.
You're listening to From the Press Box right here on 90.3 FM WHPC, talking sports every Monday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. If you have a comment or question, 516-572-7440.
Anime watchers, comic book enthusiasts, lend me your ears. For today, you experience a radio show